So we got, is it John?
Hi, you there?
Hello, John?
Hello?
Hi, you're on.
Can you hear us?
Are you there?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
I'm holding on to the TV set, I believe. I believe I saw an article in the paper this morning about heaven and hell.
Okay.
Did you?
That the Pew Research Group took. Did you see it or read it?
I didn't read this morning's paper. You know who wrote it?
It's just an article in the paper about Michael Paisden of the Boston Globe wrote it. It's a review of this survey. And it essentially says 78% of the people believe in heaven, and 59% believe in hell. Now, I don't know statistics very well, so I don't understand the gap here.
Well, you know, inconsistencies in religious belief, what a surprise.
And another thing in the tail end, and I'll shut up and wait for your answer.
Okay.
They made a big deal about why God, whether God is good or whether he's revengeful, about the punishment, why bad things happen. They made a big deal out of that. So anyway, go ahead. I enjoy your show. And
thanks.
I just got back from Roswell to the spook convention. No, go ahead.
Thanks a lot, John. Appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't actually read the Statesman article this morning, but I did see the Pew report. There's a lot of interesting data coming out of this. One, if you take your statistics about how many believe in heaven versus how many believe in hell, I'd say that in addition to the gap, I bet if you went to those people who believed in hell, none of them think they're going.
Yeah, there's...
We tend to kind of, I don't want to oversimplify things and say, because I don't believe that we choose our beliefs. I believe you're either convinced of something or you're not. However, your personal likes, dislikes, preferences, those do color the process you use to decide whether or not a claim is believable or not. And so the idea that you would be rewarded with some kind of pleasant afterlife is incredibly appealing, and the idea that you might be punished is not so appealing. However, it's appealing that someone else might be punished for wronging you.
So that may all them liberals.
Yeah, that may explain the disparity. Also, I was getting a note that 70% of Americans believe that there are multiple paths to heaven, and you know, I don't know why
the fundamentalists will not be happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, there's because, like you just said, they want there to be one, right? I think that I would maybe this is just sort of a difference in the slight semantic details, but I think that to the degree that preferences, as you said, play a role, I think people do choose what they believe, whether or not their beliefs are entirely sincere, like whether or not like you actually got them behind the 8 ball. And they had to put what they believe into practice. I think most people claim to believe certainly a great many things solely for the reason that those beliefs provide them some, kind of emotional security blanket.
I think they can choose to claim a belief.
Yeah.
I think they can choose to act as if they believe something.
Yeah.
But when you get down to brass tacks about whether or not you actually
really believe it,
I don't think that that's choice-based.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we live in a very comfortable culture that I think allows people never to have to be sort of put in that position of, really think, well, do I really believe this?
Plus, you've got something you can't prove me wrong. I'm secure in my beliefs because you can't prove me wrong.
Sure. So there's that coupled with, the fact that no one's taught critical thinking in our culture, in our educational system. Just about everyone's scientifically illiterate. This was one of the more I think, disturbing and bleak talks at TAM. We had Sharon Begley from Newsweek. One of the things that was kind of interesting about this TAM is that the theme is ostensibly skepticism in the internet age, and yet very, very few of the speakers actually focused on that. There really wasn't a whole lot about, even PZ when he got up, who's like the top science blogger just about, and he didn't talk about his experiences as a big atheist blogger. He gave an Evo Devo lecture. It was like being in his biology class. Interesting, but he sort of got up and he prefaced it with saying, well, I bet you're all expecting me to, eviscerate some Christian. And, no, sorry. And he just gave a straightforward science lecture. So very people focused on the theme. But Sharon Begley from Newsweek actually gave a talk that may have been more appropriate even at last year's TAM, where the theme was skepticism in the media. And she essentially showed a whole bunch of figures pointing out, well, here's the problem. Most Americans are pathetically scientifically illiterate. And don't expect the mass media or the news media or whatever you want to however you want to phrase it, to come to the rescue in terms of thinking, yes, well, it's in people's interests that we make sure that they're all right, that we all have the facts here, and correcting people's really bad lack of skepticism and tendency to believe just the most pathetic rubbish. And so that kind of was very sobering. It sort of showed us all just how far we have to go. I mean, something like maybe nearly 20% of American adults still think the sun revolves around the earth. I mean, that's just when you want to, sink your face in your hands. So until we sort out science education in this country, I think that we're not only going to have a problem just with that, people being really stupid about basic facts at a basic level, but we're running a risk of falling very far behind the rest of the world in terms of, the 20th century was the American century. The 21st century probably will not be if we're no longer the leaders in science.
I think I have a potential solution.
And that is, do tell.
I remember when I was in school, I don't know whether it was an English lit class or just, I don't even remember what labels they put on it. My school was rather abysmal, but you had these books that you were required to read and then report on, and you had, whether it was Huckleberry Finn or the Scarlet Letter or whatever classics. Let's replace one of those, and let's make Carl Sagan's The Demon Haunted World required reading for every kid. At least they'll get some introduction into the beauty of science, the usefulness of critical thinking, the responsible skepticism that should be expected of all of us. And it is, in fact, a great book. Well written. It's an enjoyable read. So why not make the required? I mean, Scarlet Letter's okay.
Yeah, I mean that's a start. We another speaker from TAM, Richard Saunders, who is
Suspenders.
Yes, Suspender Man from Australia, Australian skeptics. He demonstrated this thing. He does a thing where he actually goes around to these grade schools and does a dowsing demonstration. He'll get and at TAM he had a bunch of, and this actually was something I was very happy about. Quite a few people there in attendance who were teachers. He had a bunch of teachers come up and he did his little dowsing demonstration where it's just very simple. You've got 5 plastic buckets and under one is a thing of water. Oh, which one is it? And so let's see if our dowsing rod can find it. And it's all just, if you know where it is, then you'll just sort of do it, right? And it's not a thing. If you suddenly make the guy turn around and close his eyes, and then you sort of do the little, shell game deal, then it's not quite so reliable. And that's just a very simple way to communicate to kids. It's just a primer. Get them realizing, maybe I should think about these things that I keep hearing, like the crop circles and the dowsing and the what have you. So
today's lecture actually kind of dovetails into that nicely, because one of the things that Professor Coker was talking about was he's not a parent or a grandparent or anything, but how can parents and grandparents get their kids involved with this? And there were a number of really good ideas that he did as fun projects, and he started with, let's say, UFO pictures, and he won't allow digital cameras for the project. But if you take a regular film camera, make it as a project. We're going to try and create the most realistic. That's not even the right word now that I think about it. But the most convincing UFO photograph that we can with just a camera and things around the house. Whether it be chucking a hubcap up in the sky.
Which is the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. And do the same thing. And do the same thing for Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, ghost pictures, things like that. Projects that you can get kids involved in that are fun, that teach them something, and that build critical thinking skills. And so that maybe, even if this isn't something that they greatly enjoy or that they, run off to become a debunker or scientist or whatever, maybe when somebody comes up to them in their teens or 20s or 30s or 80s with a photograph, to try and have them buy into some kind of, oh, look at this picture of ghost, oh, that's not ghost, that's those orb things are just